Bună ziua! Oh, hello. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this wonderful session we have here today. I want, first of all, to thank you because you squeezed in your busy schedule this 1-hour meeting with my wonderful guests here, and I'll introduce them to you shortly. Also, I want to thank my colleagues who made this event possible. You don't know how much work is behind such an event, that we put on paper and we think of all details and so on. And of course, I want to thank my wonderful guests who were really excited to come and talk to you. And because we think we want to empower you, to show you that we girls can have whatever jobs we want to take, and we are as good as any other member of the society. Okay? So, welcome to Global Money Week. This week is the so-called Global Money Week. This is an event, that's the 13th year of this event. That's an event created by OECD, and it is working in 167 countries in the same period of time. So people in other 166 countries, like us in Moldova, are doing similar activities, of course, maybe not that big and that impressive as we do, on financial education in general, and also discussing topics related to financial life. We are here today honored and happy to discuss with you about women leadership in finance, and that's a program that we are launching this year. So that's a brand new program, and it is called FinanciarELE. For those who already know the language, understand also the words there. So allow me to introduce my guests. In the red corner, here to my right, it's Svetlana Cerovic. Svetlana, she is originally from the beautiful Montenegro. She's an economist, and she worked for the National Bank, Central Bank of Montenegro. After an impressive career at the Central Bank, she joined the International Monetary Fund, and she covered several countries from the IMF. Then she took this opportunity to be resident representative of the IMF in the beautiful Republic of Moldova. And thank you, Svetlana. She's amazing economist. I mean, I know what she's doing as an economist. Also, we have with us the representative from European Union, Magdalena Müller-Uri. She is the head of the cooperation section of the European Union delegation in our country, in Moldova. In this role, Magdalena oversees and coordinates the EU's cooperation programs and projects in the country. So she's the best person to ask about projects and programs of the EU in Moldova. So contributing to the development and implementation of initiatives aimed at supporting Moldova's European integration. And you may all heard about the recent growth plan that comes together with 1.9 billion euros. Is the biggest support from the EU the country has ever gained. And now we have to implement what's inside this growth plan, and to basically spend the 1.9 billion euros. But as girls, I think we are okay with spending. And that's a cliche joke, sorry. Okay, so let me go to directly to some questions, for my guests. And let's talk a little bit about the challenges for women in finance. We know all these figures, statistics, I will not go there. I'll just tell you my experience that although when I was in school, we were boys and girls sharing the first positions in class and so on. But as time passed, I found myself lonely and lonelier and lonelier, yes. And my friends, my female friends around me somehow disappeared, and I found myself in a world surrounded by men, basically. And the question is, what happened to my wonderful, bright little friends, girls? Where are they now? Why they did not make a career, a brilliant career in finance? Did they make another brilliant career in another area? Or they are at the middle management position because of some preconceptions of the society, because of, I don't know. So let's talk a little bit with my guests on the challenges in finance. And I would like to ask both of you, what are the key barriers women face in the financial sector, particularly in leadership role? From your experience, Svetlana and Magdalena.
Okay, it works, yeah. Well, first, thank you very much, Madam Governor, for this very kind introduction. And thank you and your colleagues for organizing this very important event. Hello, everybody. It is a great pleasure to be here with all of you. And it is really a pleasure to discuss this important topic in front of these bright young minds. Now, turning to your question about challenges we face, I would say that challenges women face in finance are not that different that women face in general in entering the labor market. In getting the jobs, staying there, in progressing in their careers. And I would put them in two main categories. One, the internal barriers on one side and external barriers on the other side. Here, when I say internal barriers, primarily I mean these perceived norms, and you touched upon it in your opening remarks. The way it is perceived, what is the role of the women versus the men in a society and in a family. So as usually, women are seen as the one who should primarily be taking care of family, of children and elderly, while the man in a family should be the one who should have a job, earn the salary, and be the breadwinner in the family. And similarly to it, but this touched upon this leadership now role, is how women are perceived. What is it? How is it perceived to be a woman, and what is needed to be a good leader? So on one side, very often, women are perceived as the ones who are soft, who are emotional, who are not decisive, who do not speak up. But at the same time, to be a good leader, one has to be assertive, has to speak up, and has to know how has to be strong. So very often if we see it, perceive it that way, then we would say, oh, but then by default, a woman cannot be a good leader. But actually that is not the case. And numbers prove that that is not the case. It is the opposite. We at the IMF, we did research on this topic that looked a little bit into numbers. And actually it showed that in these institutions, in banks, where we have women as leaders or when they are in the executive board, these institutions perform better, they are stronger, and they are more resilient to shocks. So it's just we need to work together to break these perceived norms. Now, moving to the external barriers. Here, when I say external barriers, I mean those that are kind of structural in its nature, which means that they exist whether because of certain policies that are in place or, on the other side, because of the lack of such policies. For example, childcare policies, flexible work arrangement. In many countries, this policy, this is a key barrier for women in general to enter the workplace. Because women struggle to find the right balance in between its work duties and responsibilities in family. And if we do not have this support, affordable childcare for them, then they will very often decide to simply opt out from the labor market and to devote its all time to taking care of family. So when we look at the numbers, women then unproportionally are more devoting time to these so-called non-paid duties, which makes them more financially vulnerable, and it does not empower them. Similar to it, legal barriers. Very often we do not think about it, but there is a recent study, I think it is done by the World Bank, they looked into the numbers, where they showed actually that many countries have legal provisions such that do not give the same opportunity to men and women. And according to this study, they show that only 14 countries in the world, 14 only, have laws such that both men and women have equal opportunities. And their numbers also show that around 75% of that women enjoy, like 75% of these opportunities compared to men. This then brings me to another important barrier, which is access to finance. Numbers again show there that women have less banking account than men. And this gap is even bigger if we look into the access to credits. How many of them can get a loan and credits. And actually data again show that loans provided to female women are more expensive than men. Even though, again, our numbers show that women are better performing in repayment of loans. Other ones that are also equally important is access to education, access to health that is well tailored towards the women, good and safe infrastructure, including public transportation and so on and so on. But let me stop here and leave it to Magdalena.
Magdalena, how do you think, which are the key barriers women face in finance from your experience and knowledge? Apparently, you succeeded to go over all these barriers. So tell us the secret.
Already is it working? Yeah? Very good. Thank you very much. And can I also just start by thanking you for inviting me. I think this is a fantastic initiative. And I'm very honored also to be on the panel with two very, very strong women. I'm happy to be here with you today because I think this kind of event, the event is part of the solution, and we'll come to that in the second half of the discussion. But I will share another story also, that I'm even happier that my younger daughter will be participating in this as well. So my younger daughter, who is 10, will have a trip to the National Bank of Moldova tomorrow, I understand. And I hope, Anca, that she will ask you a lot of questions about SEPA. So I'm very happy. Again, I think it's this kind of event that is very much needed also to raise the awareness. Let me start with an anecdote, and I'm coming very much to what Svetlana already said and talked about the different barriers. What I'm trying to say here is that we've come a long way already. Even if we're not there yet, we've already come a long way. So when I was a little girl in primary school, I was particularly strong in maths, by the way, my favorite subject, but that doesn't mean you don't have to excel in math to get anywhere. I'm not saying, but I'm saying I loved mathematics. I came home with a very good school report, and we very proudly always presented that to the grandparents, and then we sometimes got a little bit of a reward when we had good school reports. And my grandmother looks at my report and she goes, "Magdalena, when you grow up, you will be the secretary of a very important man." And she meant it. And for her, she was so proud of me that for her, this would have been the absolute maximum that I can achieve. This is 2 generations ago in my family, and I think we've come a very long way. I couldn't imagine my own mother saying this to my children, let alone me saying something like that to my children. So I think, looking back not so long ago, we've come a very long way. It's stereotypes. It's stereotypes, and that's one of the messages that I would like to you to take away as well. Always challenge stereotypes. Always, whenever you can, challenge stereotypes. I've made it a bit of a sport myself. The barriers are internal and are cultural as well. Of course, we work here in Moldova, and we will speak about Moldova, and we have statistics here. But in my country, I'm from Austria, and I've worked for the European Union now for over 25 years. I can tell you that Moldova is not the only country where we have, you look at the statistics, certain countries are better than others, but the environments, we're not there yet. What did I want to say? Statistics, anecdotes, barriers. Policies. First of all, the internal part I think is extremely important. The fact that also you have role models, and where we have, I think, in your country, a good example. I mean, you have a woman president. In Austria, we've never had a woman president. I work for the European Commission, and I'm very proud that we have a woman president there. You have currently your Minister of Finance is a woman, and Anca here obviously is a woman. And I think it's not to be ignored the importance of role models, to see for all of us that we can also do it, because she is there, so I can do it too. I think that's very important, and part of the solution also to see role models and feel encouraged. Policies as well, but maybe we'll come to that a bit later as well. I'd like to speak about policies as well, and as you mentioned, Svetlana, the policies or lack thereof, but maybe I'll come to that in a second, in the next question.
Read about policies a little bit, that indeed what you pointed out, that the need for women to stay at home with children, to take care of kids and the elderly, obviously because the society does not offer enough social services. So that's why you have to run from office to go home to your old, or maybe sometimes sick parents and parents-in-law and kids. So yeah, that's and I come to my favorite idea that that's why we need more women in the decision-making positions to decide that we need more kindergartens, we need more facilities for elderly people, we need more support from the society for all these people who otherwise are in our responsibility, and that's why we may not be able to perform in our jobs. But as anecdote, let me just say something very funny. As my grandmother was saying that she was born and lived almost all her life somewhere in the southern Romania, and the idea was that you should not take get girls to school. That's a waste of money, and that's nothing girls we can do with school. Why a girl would know how to read and write? Just to write love notes to boys? So this was considered maybe the only activity. Okay, I'm happy that my mother did not listen to follow such advice from my grandmother. Also, your grandmother's ideas did not come true. So, have you personally encountered challenges as a woman in finance in your activity so far? How did you overcome? So something like more personal you have to share here. Which one goes first?
No, good. So strictly speaking, I'm not a woman in finance, but I am a woman having a lot of financial responsibility as well. So maybe also just very briefly about myself. So I'm head of cooperation. You have EU delegations in all countries of the world, and most of them have a very similar structure. Head of cooperation means I lead the team. Here in this country, I have 25 people in my team who are responsible for designing, procuring, implementing, monitoring, evaluating programs. That's it in very brief, of course. But the financial responsibility is quite enormous. We have new procurement of between 100 and 150 million euros a year, and ongoing programs right now under the direct responsibility of my team, I would say is almost €500 million. So, as I said, strictly speaking, not in finance, but it's quite enormous financial responsibility. And I'm quite proud of it, and I really enjoy it also, I have to say. Now, head of cooperation, looking at the other delegations in the world, I don't have the exact figures, but I would say there's a maximum of 30% of that post that I hold that are women. I'm the first woman to hold the post in Moldova. And if you look at the region, and I'm now speaking about the candidate countries and the countries of East, we call it Eastern Partnership countries, I am currently, I think, one of only 2 women in the entire region. And the other head of cooperation is in Turkey right now. Now, that's not a very good record, and we also looked at, because you asked, what personally encountered challenges. So I'm one of the very few who have made that, and we have reflected with the other women heads of cooperation, what is it, why aren't there more women, what is the problem? And maybe I'll give you one example that we think might be one of the reasons, and it's also very much what Svetlana mentioned in the beginning, getting the job. Getting into positions of leadership and responsibility very often requires that you are very visible, and you push things and you network. It doesn't necessarily mean if you're good at it or not. So it's not that's something that people assume. Performance is assumed. We're all good at our jobs, men, women. Everybody's very good. It's not that because you're good you will get the job. It's because you have to tell people how good you are, and you have to be visible, and you have to be courageous to go to people who take decisions. And that's not culturally, I have to tell you also in my culture, it's not something that we have been brought up with. We're not competitive. There goes the saying that you don't win at dolls, which is a way of saying that girls play dolls and boys play football. And football is, you see football kind of games are very competitive. It's about winning, but you don't win at dolls, right? So culturally, I have also not been educated as somebody who asks for things, who pushes for things. But to get the kind of job that I am in, you have to be courageous and actually go, be visible, and sometimes literally just ask. And I don't think, sometimes it's really, if you don't ask, you won't get it. And you'll be surprised how many things you get if you ask.
What about your experience, Svetlana?
I have to admit that I'm fortunate to work in the institution that really values this inclusion and diversity. So I cannot say that within the institution I did feel some strong challenges related to gender. However, where I became much more aware of it as a problem was when, again, within the institution, as my job at the IMF, I traveled and worked on different countries across the globe. And then I did experience it, that especially initially in some of the meetings, the counterparts would not simply take me seriously. How you feel it is okay, and that is in the meetings that are supposed to be my meetings that I am leading. I'm there with the whole team. My boss, mission chief, is next to me, but we know that this is my meeting. This is the area I am covering. But then when I start and ask questions, they simply whether speak over me or they just turn to whether my boss or my male colleagues to answer. And it is not that they're doing it intentionally. It is just, for them, it's just simply normal. And then there are two things that helped me in these circumstances. First, really trying to speak up and show that I'm confident, that I'm competent, that I'm here because this is my area and I know what I'm doing. And second thing that I think is really helped me a lot is support of my teammates. They did recognize it and they pointed it in a way to me, just trying in front of the counterparts to actually turn to me and to point that I am the one who should be leading it and I am here with a reason. I'm here because I know what I'm doing and I know it much better than even my boss and my other colleagues. So then they would turn and just say, okay, Svetlana, so what do you think about this? How do we go ahead? So, and these two things were, I really think, very important that, and I learned a lot from that. First, you have to be confident, you have to speak up, and these are the moments where you really like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But then also it means that you should have a strong network and support behind you. So,
yeah, that's interesting. That's a very, please keep this question in mind, and I would very much like to have your views. So we have a chat here for like 45 minutes, and then we turn towards you, and we would very much appreciate your feedback and your input actually into these areas. You may already have your own experiences, or you may have experiences of your mothers, your sisters, your grandmothers, and some years ago I was finance minister, and I was in a very big meeting. It was actually the evening event, the official dinner, and we were somewhere in Western Europe, and there were two big rooms. In one room, it was the room for head of delegations, meaning Minister of Finance and central bank governors, and the other room was for staff of the two. And of course, I was directed to the staff, and they had to say, no, I go to the other room. I'm actually the head of my delegation. That's to be finance minister at 40-something. This is not, and actually at that time there were 28 countries in the EU, so it means it was before 2016. And there were only, I think, 3 female finance minister out of the 28. So that's why it was easier to think that actually we belong to staff rather to head of delegations. So yeah. But can you think of examples at international level or Europe or local level that of policies that would be really helpful for closing this gender gap and to really support also girls and women in such sectors male-dominated like finance?
I'm afraid that I will be like a broken record going back to things. Those are, I would say, policies that worked well are those that managed to balance, that helped women balance their work and family responsibilities and roles. And again, I go back to childcare, accessibility and affordability of childcare. In many countries, and we see it in numbers, it showed to be a super powerful tool to empower women and bring them to the labor market. One of those is Malta. Malta is the one who, okay, they did the full, they recognized the big gender gap, and they did the full strategy on how to close the gaps, but the core of that strategy was ensuring good quality, affordable child care to basically everyone. And they managed to increase the participation of women in the labor market from some 37% at the beginning to now being even above 70%. Similar countries that where these policies proved very well are Poland, Czech Republic, Norway, and so on. Also financial inclusion and financial education are super important parts here, and now many countries are trying to bring it into the overall, to bring this gender angle into the overall financial inclusion policies, and I'm sure that you also at the Central Bank and here in Moldova are working on it too. For example, in Costa Rica, through their inclusion policy, they created these programs that are facilitating financing women-led businesses, or they are providing assistance for women in creating business plans and so on. And this, again, proved very well, proved as being a very efficient one. I mean, there are a lot of other examples of different policies, but I will maybe turn to Magdalena if she wants to.
Thank you. At this point, if I manage, I would like to actually quote my president, because it's always good to quote your president. I say once again, Ursula von der Leyen, woman. Let me find the quote, because I didn't actually learn it by heart. So, my president, Ursula von der Leyen, presenting the European Union's gender equality strategy, said, "Gender equality is a core principle of the European Union, but it is not yet a reality. In business, politics, and society as a whole, we can only reach our full potential if we use all of our talent and diversity. Using only half of the population, half of the ideas, or half of the energy is not good enough. With the gender equality strategy, we are pushing for more and faster progress to promote equality between men and women." Now, in the European Union, gender equality is part of the fundamentals. It's a fundamental right. That's the one aspect of it, but then also I think we realize very much in the European Union that it's part of economic growth. It's a prerequisite for economic growth. So you see, those are two different aspects of, or angles of how and why we should have policies to address this. Now, we have the gender equality strategy in the European Union, but just to bring that also to here and to Moldova, and what does the European Union do here in Moldova, and how do we use this gender equality, and we have, it's called GAP for those who have done some research. How do we actually streamline, mainstream that, and or specifically directed here in our policies in Moldova? Because also, as part of external assistance, which is the programs that we do outside of the European Union, and Moldova, while it's going to be part of the European Union very soon, is at that point still outside and a candidate country. I'll give you two examples of programs that where it becomes very important. So, on the one hand, of course, in the accession process, gender equality is extremely important. As I said already, it's a we see it as a fundamental right, and as such, it's part of what we call the fundamentals cluster. You know, a country exceeding the European Union has to approximate their laws and their policies and their standards to the EU standards. And so that is one of the things that, of course, Moldova will have to also adhere to. But also from another angle, I'll give you an example when the realization that gender equality is important for economic growth. The National Bank governor already mentioned the growth plan. So the biggest package for Moldova from the European Union, 1.9 billion. A large part of that is going to be very interesting loans and very long-term concessional loans for the Republic of Moldova. And the mechanism is that the financing will be released when certain conditions have been met. And that those conditions are being negotiated, and we're almost finalizing negotiations on a very initial draft. Means Moldova has to put in place certain steps which will then be triggering financing. And one of those steps very concretely realizes the fact that there need to be, for women to be able to participate in the labor market, there need to be places of childcare. So one of the conditions is a certain number of childcare places to be created. As a very practical example of how we put this policy into practice.
A very good point you touched here on economy and economics, and we can talk about womenomics, the contribution of women to economic growth and economic activity in general. And yeah, that's a question. Why you girls would like power? Why not? Would be the simple answer. But then because we can contribute and we can bring at the decision table different angle on each situation. Okay, we say that if you want to have something done, take a woman. If you want to discuss about something, take a man. But yeah, that's a very good angle to look at closing the gender gap, because we contribute to economic activity and we also bring our needs on the table. If men do not take care of children and parents and grandparents and the parents-in-law, then it's not a need for them to preach and to vote laws and to allocate public resources to such facilities. That's always somebody at home, the wife, who takes care of all this. So why bother? Why spend money? We can shift money to something else. Okay, we don't name now, but so I have had important positions in my career, and I'm always I'm overwhelmed of the responsibility and the importance of these positions, and I hate when people say she was the first woman to be in this, she was the first, the second. I mean, it's not normal. I don't want to be singled out, to be described like this. The first woman that have had such a position. You don't say it was the first man who was president. No. Have you heard this? It was the first man who was central bank governor. So I hope that in how many years, in 10, 20, 30 years, when we talk about a woman in a position, in high position in finance or in politics, we don't feel the need to say she was the first or second. I mean, we don't want to point out, to stress out that, oh, that's a big achievement. Whoa, it's something whoa. So, yeah, unfortunately, when I was the first, I'm also the last woman in the positions I had. But I hope this is going to change. Before turning to the audience and asking you to comment on what we said here, just I would like to ask my guests about advice. Would you have a piece of advice for our girls here in the room? What's the best for them to do in the next years? So they would not turn into the first woman in the position, but to be just normal, a woman in the high level position.
It's difficult to choose one, so I don't.
No, several. No,
okay.
Please don't. Okay. Not one.
I would say keep up with your education. That will help you going forward. It is good to exercise your brain, but it is also good to get competencies, to become more confident. So don't give up on it. You will be very often distracted by, you know, good makeup. Do I have a good makeup? Do I have a right boyfriend and all that? That's fine. But don't give up on education. That's one, I would say. Another one is don't shy out of your success. Recognize, be confident, recognize who you are, recognize that yes, if you did something, I did it, and this is a success. Even though sometimes they seem like very tiny things, they accumulate over time. And be aware of it. I am telling it to you from my own experience. Don't shy out of your success and be aware of it. Yeah, let me stop here so that not to overwhelm you too much.
So I'd like to start with coming back to challenge stereotypes. Keep challenging stereotypes. Very important. There's a number of pieces of advice that I think are equally important. I think motivation and enthusiasm is very important. And you know, when we talked at the outset about being the necessity of being assertive, for instance, I'm not so sure actually that we need to all be assertive. But I think what we need to be confident and trust ourselves. And I think the piece of advice I would give is seek encouragement if you don't have it. Because we have days where we feel very strong and we feel like we are in our element. But when we have, or I would say even regularly, we need also encouragement from others. I mean, some need it more than others. But so I would say seek encouragement. Network through networks. Ask mentors. Don't wait until somebody finds you. Ask. I've done some very good trainings in my professional career where one of the aspects was the networking to help each other out, but also mentorship. And I'm trying to also be a gender champion, for instance, for my team. And I see that, or let's say even from private life, I'll give you an example. I was skiing in Austria a couple of weeks ago, and I, for whatever reason, I find myself with a young student from Moldova, actually, on the slopes. And she was a confident skier, but maybe not as, I started when I was 4, what can I say? But so we were skiing together for the whole day. And then after the week, she said to me, you know, thank you so much, because when you said you can do it, I thought, okay, I can do it. So there were slopes which were very steep where she was very scared. And I basically said to her, of course you can do it. I've seen you ski. I gave her the confidence that she lacked, but I knew that she can do it. And so this is the kind of thing that I think is extremely important when we need to encourage each other, but also actively seek this encouragement. Go to find your role model, ask for mentorship, ask for somebody to motivate and help you.
Indeed, education matters a lot. We can pursue our dreams and our talents and vocation, but also confidence. I think that's attitude. You know that you can do everything you want to do. And about education, yes, we at the Central Bank of Moldova, we do care about financial education, and we want to reach as many children as possible and students, both girls and boys, so male and female. But of course, we want to see female more integrated. You mentioned access to finance. Access to finance, yes, it's a problem for a female in general worldwide, and limited access to finance is creating this economic violence. You know that gender violence is not only physical violence, just I punch you. So it's more than this. It's also economic violence when actually in general women do not have access to economic means and in general limited access to finance. In Moldova, for example, in terms of number of cards, we are doing, women have more cards than men. There are like 1.9 million cards for women and 1.6 for men. Cards issued by different banks, yes, so a person has multiple, a number of cards, debit cards, credit cards. When we look at transactions, number of transactions is comparable. Transactions made by women and men, but when we look at value, men are doing more valuable. The value of transactions by men is higher than transactions made by women. That's a difference in favor of men by around 7%. So women have more cards, make same number of transactions, but lesser value. What does it mean? It means that the financial decision is basically taken in general by men, not by women. And women make small size transactions with those many cards, while men with lesser cards, they make the biggest number of transactions. So we can also correlate these figures with the pay gap. And we discussed briefly about it. So yeah, that's a pay gap in general, this concept that men are better paid than women. In Moldova, this figure is almost 16%. So on average, men are better paid by 16% than women. This is also an explanation of this higher transaction by value than by men. So that's interesting. Okay, bottom line, it's not bad, but it's room for improvement. I will turn to you, and I hope from what we said here, you picked up some ideas and you would like to contribute with a question, a comment, your own experience, your thinking. Please, please, please. First three, okay, yes.
Hello, my name is Gabriela and I'm from Aristotle Lyceum. I was wondering, in the Republic of Moldova, what are some factors that influence the recruitment process? So we know that women are less motivated to apply to jobs, and there are some, like the 16% difference between the pay of a man and a woman, but why aren't women as hired as men in the financial part, in the financial business industry?
For the central bank, and for those who are looking for a career in central banking, please knock at our door. Actually, visit our website. We always have there interesting positions for newcomers. So in the central bank, we do have 64% of staff women, and management positions are 53% of management positions are women. So we are dominating, yeah. We also have in the executive board, out of 5 people in the executive board, 2 are women. It's myself, the governor, and the vice governor. So total of 3. That's really very good. If we look at figures in the region. By the way, in the European Union, if I'm not mistaken, there's no country with a woman governor. Okay, we have President of European Central Bank, Madame Christine Lagarde, but that's it. But we do have some female governors in Western Balkans and in Montenegro, in North Macedonia, in Bosnia, Herzegovina, in Serbia. Yeah, actually that's dominating. Yeah. That's yeah. So recruitment. Well. That's a demand and supply issue here. On the supply side, for jobs, I also think what somebody said earlier about maybe girls and women looking at career at home in the family. I have 1 baby, 2 babies, I take care of my babies, and I look for a job later on. I don't have maybe enough support from family and society, so I have to raise my children by myself. And okay, so there are women who are just disappearing from labor market, from the supply of labor force. On the demand for labor force, here, of course, I'm sure that some companies may think of young woman. I heard it in many occasions when you are asked if you're married or if you intend to get kids. Because if you intend to have children, then okay, maybe you prefer a man because we invest in you and then you stay home. And so this is totally unfair. And this situation should be reported. Yeah. Should be reported to these committees combating discrimination. But that's a reality. That's why we have to stay alert, to have this conversation, to understand, to learn from each other, and basically to be there to push for our rights. I want to bring one idea into this discussion about the quotas. That's a discussion. I was in so many debates about the quotas, and I was working for European Commission when Kristalina Georgieva, actually the current boss of the IMF, was EU Commissioner for Budget, and she introduced in 2014 this concept of quota. And it was a very brave and courageous gesture from Kristalina. She was not loved by many people because of this measure, but I think it really worked. And then later on I had this discussion, and I saw also many women being against quota. You know, because they say, and those who are opposing this idea, they say, oh, but we don't need quota. We are good enough, and it's about meritocracy. And then my question is, so why we are not in the first role? Are we idiot? Are we stupid? Those men in the leading positions, they all passed exams to become, especially in politics, this is valid, this conversation. So I am a supporter of quotas, actually, because that's an administrative measure to fix a market failure. And for those who study economics, you understand what means market failure. If you have 50-50%, then it means that in all positions you have this. You need to have this representation. It's just normal. If you don't have, it means that you have a market failure, and that's normal. Like in any market failure, to have an administrative measure. What do you think about this quota story? And then I'll turn to you, please. I'm waiting for you, a comment from you.
I completely agree with you. Because until we are 50-50, then I think we need to have this measure. I understand also that it's a debate and that maybe some people say it's not nice to be the quota woman. But frankly, I think until we reach until the report is needed.
Can I just follow up on that? And I will actually cite Madame Christine Lagarde mentioned in one of her interviews. She said actually that she was initially against quotas. But then, once she realized how deep the problem is, then she was the one actually promoting it at the IMF too. And can I just bring quickly, I cannot not to follow up on other things that you said, and you I think said exactly women disappearing from labor market. And this is so true for Moldova when we looked at the numbers. When we looked at the employment rate for women with children and without children, there is a huge, huge difference. Employment rate for women without children is around 65%, actually higher than for men. But then, once they get one child, so those with children, it drops to 37%. It is a huge difference, 65 versus 37, and I think that answers quite a bit of your question.
So, Other questions, comments, please.
Hi, my name is Patricia. I'm from Aristotle High School, and I have a question for you. Do you think that, or if there are educational initiatives or different mentorships or programs aimed at young women from our society here in Moldova that want to pursue careers in finance or any leadership career?
I don't think there are specific programs or specific barriers. But I think that institutions like Central Bank, for example, we are responsible to come towards our female auditorium audience and to invite them, then to open the door. Maybe the door is closed for, stereotype attitudes because of this. But it's our job to open this door, to say, hey, come on, come here. It's also room for you. And, we don't have to take as granted access to all jobs. Yes, in theory we have, but there are some barriers. And at least barriers in our families, in our minds. Yeah, you were told when you were a little girl that you cannot have dirty clothes. You have to, don't shout, you're a girl. Behave, you're a girl. Be nice, you're a girl. Yeah. So then you raise with this stereotypes in your minds. So then you wonder yourself, oh my God, I'm a girl. Am I allowed to? So I think it's a matter of attitude, and it's our job. Older than you, we passed through all these questions and doubts also, yeah. And it's our job to tell this message to you. So, maybe some more questions. Come, let's. We have time? We have some minutes left because we start a little bit later than scheduled. Next two questions are free of charge, but for the third one, I don't promise.
Hello, my name is Alina. I am 21 and I am a student at Finance and Banking here at SM. But I am so involved in following the situation at the social, economic and political in our country. So my question is, in which way could you appreciate the evolution in economic and social and in political field in our country after women started to be involved in decision-making process? Thank you.
Well, if I look at studies and figures, women bring more care and empathy in their fields of activity. And I think this is what we can say when we look at policymakers in all countries, not only in Moldova. And there are angles on that are striking us, but not our colleagues, men. For example, in the central bank, I have this idea in mind, and I try to get resources to organize after school for kids of our employees, because I understand it's not easy. I am a mother also. It's not easy when you don't know if your children, where are they, are at home, are in school. It's somebody taking care of them. Do you have somebody to take care of them? You can afford it, or, So I think this is the type of policies we can bring in all our jobs, irrespective of the position, higher or lower position. But in general, yes, if somebody, the statistics show that countries with female leadership are doing just very fine. So, and that's why I encourage girls to join civic activities, very important, but also political activities. Decisions are made in the politics, in the parliament. Yeah, so this is where we should look for decision making. And I hope I see you, Alina, in the parliament in some years. Yeah, to be the voice of young female in Moldova, and young women who would like to have access to daycare for children, to kindergartens, and so on. So without such people, and that's why how with such policies you can relieve some women and bring them in the labor force and make them contributing to economic activity. Otherwise, that's okay. The progress is there, but it's slower. We need to be there, trust me. Okay. So, yes, but other points, please join this conversation.
The next two are still free.
Yeah.
It's one more that is free.
The next one is still for free.
And then we can also make big transactions.
While they are thinking about the next question, maybe just follow up on this one and try to answer your question, Alina, is I think we need both men and women. We have different skills, we bring different perspective on issues, and we are complementary to each other. So I do very much appreciate both women, female role as well as men, but we need both of them together.
Okay, so other questions? The one for free. You want to start big transactions? So.
Hello, my name is Emilia. I'm also from Aristotle High School, and since our society is pretty conservative and we have a lot of stereotypes about division of jobs, like jobs for men and jobs for women. And I also can relate with the stories you retell not so long ago, because when you want to start something in a field that's meant for men, you are usually being asked, why don't you try something more for you? So I wanted to ask, how can we break this stereotype, like this is a job for a man and this is a job for a women, when you really want to do something, but everybody tells you that it's not right for you? Thank you.
I think we all have to do what we can do, and I think I would like to also encourage you to start with yourself. I like the storytelling, so I'll give you another story about, so I have two daughters. They go to school here. Last year or 2 years ago, they went to a summer camp, and one of the fun activities, they enjoyed it a lot. They overall a very fun camp and nice weather. One of the activities was playing pilots and stewardesses. So then they were making hats, and the boys made pilot hats, and the girls made stewardesses uniforms. So what did I do? My kids came home and luckily told me about this, and my first, I think it's also delicate. You don't immediately maybe step on it or criticize. You ask questions. So you ask the questions, and you ask the teachers, why do you think that we should do it this way? It's this kind of thing. You may think it's a small thing, but it's not, because that means, why can't I be a pilot? Even now, if you're on a plane, there's a silly joke about women pilots. There still isn't many women pilots, right? So we have to start with those situations and address them. Also, sometimes in a nice way, because it's not always good to be militant about things, but to ask questions and say, why is it this? And so what I do very much, as I said already, I'm trying to be a gender champion in my team. I support young men as much as I do young women, and I also elderly. either way. I think balance is good both ways. But when I see that women need more encouragement and more support, I do that. And I'm trying to teach my children as well. And I try to explain to them that, you know, this is not right, and you can ask these questions as well. And I encourage also them to ask questions and challenge their teachers.
Yeah, as Magdalena said, you know, some small steps can change it. And I hope that this discussion actually that we are having today is encouragement for all of you here that you can do that. We did it, you can do it as well. So even though it maybe sounded, okay, not that strong, encouraging, but in the end I think you did get the point. We all face these things, but we all together have to fight against it. And exactly this discussion, what we are trying to tell you today is exactly that. Just believe in yourself, and yes, you can do that. Absolutely, don't doubt it.
Is the job as a governor of a central bank for men or for women? I think it's equally for men and women. However, I'm the first woman having this position. Is the job of president of a country a job for a man or for a woman? You would say, I mean, many people, not you, but many people would say, oh, it's for men. And unfortunately, you hear also women saying that, oh, this is not for women. We don't trust women. We want a man to lead us. Okay, thanks, but no thanks. So I think it's just a stereotype to divide jobs into jobs for men and for women. And as we're discussing in the previous free of charge question, there are good results. It's irrespective of the gender. Even more, and there are studies in boards of companies with boards with women have better results, and so on and so forth. That's why European Commission has a directive that becomes mandatory next year, that for listed companies and for state-owned companies, you need to have 33 and 40% for non-executive, 40% board members, and for executive board members to be female. So these figures and these directives are based on studies showing that, yes, we had this cliche, this stereotype in mind that that's only men in that room, or if you're very smart in math, you can be the secretary of an important person, an important man. Yeah, but guess what? We see that women are doing at least as good as a man can do. So I just want to say thank you to men in the room, and I want to tell you that without the support of men, we cannot make it. And one of the best programs I'm aware of is this program, He for She. It's a program by United Nations. I've always encouraged high-level men to join this program and really to support colleagues and family, female friends, to take over important positions in their institutions, companies, wherever. So I think we have to move over this stereotype and these barriers. These are in our minds, in our grandmother's minds. My grandmother, who was thinking why she should send her three girls to school. What for? Just to write love notes to boys? Okay, finally she sent them to school. So it's in our mind, these barriers, and we have to overcome. And I think this kind of discussions are I found very welcome. And I'm a feminist, but I became a feminist when I was pretty old, when I realized what I said at the beginning, that the girls that were surrounding me disappeared. And when I also, I discovered a great author. She was professor in SNSPA in Bucharest, Mihaela Miroiu, For those who do not know the books of Mihaela Miroiu and lectures, I recommend strongly. She's a beautiful mind. So, I think we will continue with questions, big transactions in the next session, in the next discussion. Please, I welcome all of you to National Bank of Moldova, to visit our museum, to visit our building, our facilities, to have a chat. And if you look for a job, don't hesitate to to search our website. And we are very friendly with newcomers, with students, with young professionals, because we believe in young people and men and women. So thank you so much. Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you, my wonderful colleagues who made possible this event. And see you soon.